Hello, this is the final torch of soton speedlang relay, which is driven by very politely asking. If you don't know what a relay is, you're a liar, because this is the second to last video in the playlist, and I know someone before me has explained what a relay is already. Actually, I'm probably gonna send this video to some of my friends who don't know shit about fuck, conlanging wise. It's like, you know that thing where you take some text and run through Google Translate a bunch of times, and it comes out incomprehensible? Yeah, so imagine if instead of a little robot doing all of that, it was a bunch of nerds, and if instead of a bunch of natural languages, it was languages that they made. This relay is a bit special because you have to make the language specifically for the relay, and you have some constraints given to you by the previous person that affect the language itself. The person before me is Lycan, which means I am translating of Lycan's language a lot. The text I received was this right here on the screen. The most interesting thing about this language is probably the vowels. Every consonant, except the semivowels, has three versions: plain, front, and rounded. These don't affect the sounds of the consonants themselves, they just affect the neighboring vowels. So that's pronounced ta, that's pronounced te, that's pronounced ta, but also that's pronounced tut. So while there are 3 phonemic vowels, there are 12 phonetic vowels. This leads to quite a lot of confusion since there's no difference between that and that, they're both tut. Anyways, bam 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 bam, I translated, this is what I believe it says. Anyways, onto my language. The constraints given to me by Lycan are, for the phonemic ones, I have contrasting vowel qualities, with the numbers of vowels per quality. I have a phoneme with a place of articulation, manner of articulation different from any other phoneme. Dorsal place of articulation distinctions, with the grammatical ones, verb affixes that denote where and with what tool an action was performed, and sequentism and morphology. And the semantic one is to have homophones. Now, I wanted to do something different and more unique for the writing system of this language. Since pretty much every calling of mine up until this point has been written primarily with the Latin script, so I took all 194 scripts in Unicode, I moved Latin, kept in determinate script for the funny, and spun that thing. Now, I wasn't actually recording on the spinning of this wheel, so there's dramatic reenactment left to do. Wow! So, Meroitic hieroglyphics. I've never heard of this writing system, but apparently it's an abugida of sorts, but the vowels are full-on letters, but they're still inherent vowels, so it's a weird mix between an abugida and an alphabet. There's also these pre-composed syllabic characters, ne, se, te, to, which the first three will apparently use as coda consonants, which is also how I use them, and the other one, to, I could not find any info on. Hey, a weird out of place character. One of my constraints requires me to have a weird out of place phoneme. Perfect. Since for the consonants, I basically copied Meroitic 1-to-1, and Meroitic doesn't have any affricates, nor co-articulated alveolar bilabial consonants, I think using this so-called to character for the sound makes sense. Thus the phoneme was born. It just sounds so glorious. Just listen to it. Now, the sound is restricted to the coda position, which means that you can technically analyze it as an allophone of P, but if you do that, I'll kill you. I'll fucking kill you. Anyways, there's also this group of characters that had a 2 next to them. I assume they're like graphical variants that were sometimes found on some inscriptions. And for some time I didn't really know what to do with these. Do I ignore them? Do I use them in conjunction with the base characters? But then I had an epiphany. What language is most known for using the number 2 in its orthography? Polyespo, of course. What does it represent in that language? A nasal vowel, because the number 2 looks like a nose. What is one of my constraints? Have different vowel qualities. So across that of the list, now we have the syllables bara, satana, and na2ba2ra2. We also get the different number of vowels per quality requirement for that constraints. So there's 4 oral and 2 nasal. Now that we have that, the whole phonology looks like ma, na, ba, ta, ka, ka, ba, da, sa, ha, ha, wa, la, ya, ra, ch, I, u, a, a. And also can be any consonant except t. The coda can be only these, appearing only before these consonants, and the only before these. So you can see that I did the dorsal place of articulation contrast requirement thingy. Now do you notice anything about these consonants? That's right, one per manner of articulation of voice pair. Keep this in mind. Since na2ba2ra is inspired by an Afro-Asiatic language, naturally it has triconsonantal roots, except that the roots are inherently verbs. How do you make them nouns? I'm glad you asked. You take the three radical consonants from the root, take the manner of articulation of voicing, and replace them with their corresponding R symbol. This leads to, oh, so many homophones, which is a constraint. Yay! But yeah, na2ba2ra and na2ba2ra in their noun forms are identical. Also, reservation scheme means that you can't really inflect nouns. Well, I guess you can with like affixes and whatnot, but I use postpositions, which are totally different. They come in the form nasal schwa syllable and then optionally a coda and another nasal schwa syllable. In theory, you could have as many of these coda and nasal schwa bits as you want, but I never had to go beyond just the two. Yeah, this language has self-segmental morphology for literally no reason. The few constraints I haven't touched on yet are the grammatical ones. They both require me to have the language inflecting, which is kind of a bummer since I love analytic languages, even though the only two I've ever made are the weird-ass esoteric loglangs. As I've mentioned previously in the video, triconsonantal roots. There's three slots for vowels, more precisely a vowel and an optional coda. Verbs inflect for tense aspect, motive, initiality, tone, location, instruments, that's another constraint done, and intent. Totaling 7,290 total inflections, and guess what? It's entirely fusional, no pattern, fuck you! Also there's syncretism, because the final constraint that I have to do is to have syncretism, so now that's done. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the conlang. Listen to CGK Unified Autographs Extension B in order to hear colors. Here's the translation. Kat, sasata, rata, na, satara, basara, na, sasara, basara, na, ranara, na, nanta, na, natflanta, natflanta, sasara, barara, na, tasaba, rispotwood, na, statas, na, nanta, sarana, barara, na, tasasa, sasata, na, ta, nayasra. Nanta, rachata, Islats Nasta, Basara, Wittunut, not bad fiat. Sarana, Nanta, na, Tasaba, Tasasa, na, Tatfla, Ramutra, Nasta, Tasasa, Sanata, Barara, na, Tanta, Satara, na, Tatfla, Nastjutron. Bye.